If you like Hooters, that's cool. If you think Hooters is nothing but below average buffalo wings served in an issue of FHM come to life, that's cool too. What no one can deny though is the impact Hooters has had on sports over the years. In particular, we're talking about its sponsorship of sports, college football, golf, and auto racing. The brand has popped up in some odd places across the sports world. That is what makes the news of Hendrick Motorsports dropping Hooters as a sponsor all the more surprising. For more than 30 years now, the brand has had some role to play in sports. With Hooters seemingly unable to pay their advertising commitments, this feels like the end of an era of sorts. I am Cheyenne Hollis, this is the Touchback, and it's time to talk some busty business, the history of Hooters sports sponsorship. But first, a word from our sponsor. All right, I got a new jersey in from, well, you know the name of the company. Let's see what are you kidding me? Women's shorts? What is this, just string? Is this thing just falling apart already? Why don't they just make jerseys like they did back in the day? Actually, someone is making jerseys like they used to. Royal Retros is all about high quality jerseys from those teams that just aren't with us anymore. From the World League and Original XFL to the ABA and WHA, Royal Retros is preserving sports history with some of the coolest jerseys made to last a lot longer than some of those teams existed. In an era when sports apparel is all about getting less for more, Royal Retros is giving you more for less. Now that's a true throwback. If this is the future of buying jerseys, well, I'd much rather shop in the past. For a 10% discount on your next Royal Retros order, use the promo code Touchback. The link is in the video description. And even if you don't want to buy, visiting their website is worth it because you will not believe some of the teams they have on offer. Hooters is first and foremost a joke. It was founded on April Fool's Day by 6 guys who had no idea what they were doing in terms of operating a restaurant. Basically, these guys just wanted a local sports bar where they may or may not have been allowed to sexually harass servers and get away with it. At least one of them, and perhaps more, had to have been calling all the servers toots and slapping them on the ass. Anyway, the brand wasn't really going anywhere until John Riggins dropped by while Super Bowl IX was happening in Tampa. More players followed suit, and the relationship between Hooters and sports was born. Hooters' first foray into sports was NASCAR, an absolutely perfect partnership when you sit down and think about it. However, it wasn't until a chance event that this partnership would actually flourish. In the early 90s, Hooters of America was located in Atlanta, therefore making Atlanta Motor Speedway its home track by default. In 1991, the Wings dispensary was sponsoring Mark Stahl in the number 82 car. However, Hooters was not getting much bang for its buck in this sponsorship deal. Stahl did not qualify for any of the first 3 races of the season. Atlanta, its home race, was 4th on the schedule, and when Stahl again didn't make the field, executives decided they needed to take some action. They sounded out Alan Kulwicki, who was racing without a sponsor because Johnson was being a total dick and actually boxed him out of a sponsorship deal with Maxwell House Coffee. After some quick talks, Hooters got their name on his Ford Thunderbird for the Atlanta race, where he finished 8th. The two sides would strike up a long-term partnership in the aftermath of that race result, and that brings us to 1992. This was Kulwicki's amazing run to the Winston Cup, which included the driver overcoming a 278-point deficit over the final 6 races, including the season finale in Atlanta, which just happened to be sponsored by, you guessed it, Hooters. This race, by the way, is widely seen as one of the best NASCAR races in history. Basically, like a million different storylines unfolded over the course of a few hours at Atlanta Motor Speedway. For the sake of this video, here's what you need to know. Hooters got all it could hope for in terms of visibility, being both the race title sponsor and Kulwicki's primary sponsor. Their logo, the girls, they were absolutely everywhere in the aftermath of the race, with Kulwicki lifting the Winston Cup. Sadly, the driver, 2 Hooters marketing executives, including the son of Chairman Robert Brooks, and a pilot would be killed in a plane crash in April of 1993. Hooters remained in NASCAR to a certain extent after the tragedy, but would be less visible overall. They did not renew the sponsorship for the season-ending Atlanta race after 1994, and while they did support drivers here and there, none of them had the success or visibility of Kulwicki. By the early 2000s, they were out entirely and wouldn't re-enter until 2016, when Hooters sponsored Greg Biffle in a one-off as part of the throwback paint schemes used at the Southern 500. For Biffle, it was really a chance for him to honor Kulwicki. The following season saw Hooters sponsor Chase Elliott for 2 to 3 races each season. That was, of course, until this season when they stopped paying their sponsorship commitments. It's not just NASCAR where the Hooters brand has been prominent in auto racing. Then Chairman Robert Brooks founded the USA Hooters Cup Racing Series, which would later become the USAR Hooters Cup Series. The company owned and operated those events up until 2011. Moving away from auto racing and going back on the timeline to 1993, this brings us to one of the most bombastic ideas Hooters ever had for sponsorship in sports. That's right, we're talking about the brand's tie-up with an Arena Football League team. When the Sack Attack relocated to Miami ahead of the 1993 season, Hooters said, screw it, you know what? We're just gonna buy the team's name. Unfortunately, the Miami Hooters were losers. They never finished with a winning record during the 3 seasons they had the name, with 1995 being a cellar-dweller worthy 1-11 campaign. While Tampa Bay and Atlanta were busy playing in Arena Bowl 9 that season, the Hooters had become an absolute joke. Unsurprisingly, the Wings chain pulled its name from the team after 1995, ending one of the just wildest team names, logos, looks, even by the standards of arena football. Also around this time, Hooters chairman Robert Brooks had acquired a stake in what was then known as the TC Jordan Tour. This essentially operated as the third tier of golf in states. As part of the agreement the tour reached with Brooks, the TC Jordan Tour would be rechristened the Hooters Jordan Tour. A few years later, with sanctioning in place from the National Golf Association, it was renamed once again, this time being known as the NGA Hooters Tour. The restaurant ended its partnership with the tour in 2012, and by the way, the tour was already on decline and would not exist beyond 2015. Elsewhere, Hooters essentially stepped up and saved the Hula Bowl after Kodak ended its sponsorship with the Collegiate All-Star Game. The company agreed to a 5-year deal to underwrite all of the Hula Bowl festivities and provided organizers with some much-needed stability. Interestingly, Hooters wanted to carry on this sponsorship deal with the Hula Bowl, but those running the game wanted a more prestigious sponsor. Unfortunately, all they found was Rivals.com in 2000. Things did not go well when the fledgling website went belly up a year later before being bought out and relaunched. That agreement ended after the 2002 Hula Bowl. The event cycled through some low-level sponsors after that and eventually just disappeared after 2008. The game resurfaced in 2020 and now it's played in that traditional legendary Hawaiian location of Orlando, Florida. No, seriously, the Hula Bowl is played in Orlando, Florida. Look it up. As for Hooters, most recently it made headlines for its NIL strategy, which focused exclusively on offensive linemen. It's one of those partnerships you hear about and go, yeah, that makes sense. The campaign is also somehow far less sexualized than Carson Palmer in this ad for John Morrell smoked sausages. Who saw that layout and said, this is it, this is the winning concept, no one will ever make fun of John Morrell, Franks, or Carson Palmer ever again? I mean, really, people? I've lost my train of thought. Back to Hooters. While the corporate Hooters office had a clear vision for its sports sponsorships, Hooters franchisees have a track record of not always using the best common sense. For example, in Nottingham, England, the local Hooters sponsored an under-10 youth soccer team complete with photo op. Over in Australia, the local Hooters there tried sponsoring an under-16 Aussie Rules football team. Over in Florida, there are numerous Hooters sponsoring Little League sides. Here's the deal. I'm fine with the sentiment. If Hooters wants to support youth sports, so be it. Do you really need the photo op with the preteen and teenage boys standing next to the Hooters waitresses? Are you grooming these preteens and teens to become future Hooters customer? Grooming, probably not the best word choice there. Anyway, if this is all about supporting the local community and supporting youth sports, why do you insist on the photo op? And if you're doing it solely for the photo op so you can show people you care, maybe find something else to sponsor a little more age appropriate. Again, this is not a Hooters thing done at the corporate level. It is just individual store owners not exactly exercising the best judgment when it comes to sponsorship and local sports. With Hooters ending its sponsorship commitments in NASCAR for the second time, in addition to closing 40 underperforming stores, it really highlights the plight of legacy brands in America. In the 1990s, Hooters was ahead of its time. It didn't just throw its name on sports, it was extremely selective about what it sponsored. Not only did it have a firm grasp on its target audience, on who its customers were and potentially could be, but it found ways through sports sponsorships to engage those customers and potential customers, to reach them directly. They weren't simply slapping their names on sports and hoping people would see them and come in. When Hooters got involved with sports, it was done so in creative ways. The thing is, as the sports world changed and as the world at large changed, Hooters never did. It carried on serving the same below average food at above average prices to guys hoping to, I don't know, butters a waitress?
When do you want to see me? As soon as possible. Oh my God. Here, we left you a tip already, but here's another $5.
But much like how those big restaurant chains disrupted the food service industry by expanding nationwide across America, they are now being displaced by changing consumer habits. None, though, are complexly American as Hooters. You can hate the brand for being discriminatory and setting a bad example for women. That's not wrong. You can also praise the brand for being the embodiment of freedom of choice in America. That's not wrong either. At the end of the day, though, as it relates to sports, Hooters' impact, whether it was saving the Hula Bowl from an uncertain future or helping support an underdog, or is that underbird, like Alan Kulwicki win the Winston Cup, it has had a positive impact. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to learn more about some of the weirdest jersey sponsors ever, video lower right hand corner of your screen. And if you're interested to know about the MLS team that lost its name to an electronics store, video upper right hand corner. Until next time, I'm Sean Hollis. This is the Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.